What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today's video, we are back with another episode of Lions Latest. I almost forgot what this was called. We're back with another episode of Lions Latest, going through the latest Lions news. And today, we are here with the final injury report of the week for the Lions and for the Cowboys. And we're also going to be talking a little about this Cowboys team.
Yeah, Cowboy, baby.
Because we haven't done that yet this week. Plus, a couple of notes from pressers. So let's get it started.
Fired up. It's made a great decision.
Great teammates, coaches, and other people who want to be Super Bowl champions. And we are. We're going to do it this year.
And we're going places, because we want to go places.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
All right, now we got some breaking news for the Detroit Lions. This is about the punter, Jack Fox. So I want to throw this clip in here, and then we'll upload this video. But with that, let's jump into it real quick. The Detroit Lions have given out a contract extension to punter Jack Fox. He is now the highest paid punter in NFL history, and I believe that's on the basis of average salary per season, not like the entire thing, but per season. Now he is signing a deal with the Lions that is worth 3 years, $3.775 million per season on average. That comes out to a total of a 3-year, $11.325 million deal, and $7.5 million of that is guaranteed. Now, some of these numbers may not be exact, and we know this is well deserved. If there's a guy that deserved an extension, it's that man, Jack Fox. For the last 2 years, he's been signed under 1-year deals because he was an exclusive rights free agent. That's what happened last year as well, exclusive rights free agent. So his contract this year is only $895K, not very expensive for the Lions, and he didn't really have other choices. There is no other choice. The Lions can place that exclusive rights tender on you, and he can't go anywhere. He's back for another year, and it's on a cheap contract. So it was great for the Lions because it was like, dude, he is clearly outplaying the production here for what we're paying this guy. But eventually, you have to make that decision, and clearly the Lions weren't playing around with this one because it's been obvious to all of us he deserves that kind of contract extension, and now he has it. It was Seattle's kicker, I believe, Dixon, who was making on average $3.67 million per year. But again, now Jack Fox, it looks like he's going to be making more than that per season. But let's just hit on a couple things Jack Fox has done. The 26-year-old punter out of Rice, right, who came in through via a tryout with the Detroit Lions, started on the practice squad in 2019, started punting for us in 2020. Let's just touch on some of these numbers here real quick, okay? He hasn't played a ton of games. Going to 2020, where he was a second-team All-Pro, he was also a Pro Bowler that season. He's second-team All-Pro, well done. But on top of that, because I don't really care about those things too much, statistically speaking, he averaged 49.1 yards per punt, as well as 44.8 net yards per punt. Those are both Detroit Lions records. In his first seasons, those are both Detroit Lions records, and we've had some good punters. Sam Martin was a punter before him. His career here is averaging 49.1 yards per punt, and as of so far this season, 48.8 yards per punt. After the Browns game, he was averaging 49 gross yards per attempt and 43.9 net yards per punt through his first 100 attempts. That, again, is an NFL record. So Jack Fox has done some things. Oh, yeah, and then also what he's done in the past game. Seriously, the guy is 3 for 4 with the Lions, so that's been something that we've been able to utilize. All of those completions have been first down. There's been one that has not been successful, but we know that we can use him in punt fake. And that's also definitely another benefit because you trust him to get it out there and not mess it up. He's been very reliable. And finally, on top of that, he is also your kicker's placeholder. So, yeah, I would say this is pretty well-deserved for Jack Fox. Now we got to use him. But no, I think this was well-deserved for Jack Fox. Congratulations. I'm really happy to see this. And this was one of those moves that would kind of go under the radar. But the longer we hold this off, where he has to start making a decision, does he want to come back here? Other teams can start to offer him. Oh, now you might lose that guy. And this is a guy that you can't afford to lose him. I mean, really, 26 years old. This guy has been a stud, one of the best punters. He's on pace to be one of the best punters in NFL history. You can't lose that guy. You got to bring him back, and it's well-deserved. So congratulations, Jack Fox. I want to throw this news in here. Now, I don't know where we're at in the video when I'm throwing this in, so let's get back to the video unless it's over. It's probably not over. Let's get back to the video. Welcome everybody to the video. Glad you guys are here, and it's good to be back, man, with one of these videos. It's already Friday. I know we didn't do videos on Wednesday or Thursday for this. Yesterday we put out the defense video, and that was kind of my focus, is to just focus on what's going on with the Lions. We have to worry about the Lions. The good thing is we haven't really missed a ton on the injury report side. Not a lot changed throughout the week, so we'll take a look at today's Friday for both the Cowboys and the Lions. Cowboys don't really have a lot going on there. Lions got a few big names that we need to touch on. But also, I want to talk about this Cowboys team a little bit because we haven't talked about the Cowboys yet. And it's already Friday, and this is a 4-win team that is now getting Dak Prescott back, so that's going to be the headline. But we know this is one of the top defenses in football. If you just want to go by the numbers, which, I don't put everything into that, but statistically they have been pretty outstanding. I mean, just really across the board. The only area where they've had some question marks is, I guess, run defense. Not to say it's been poor, but it's been more statistically on like the middle of the pack side or a little bit below average. But pass defense has been outstanding. Points per game allowed, conversion rates allowed. I mean, they've been fantastic in all of those areas. And they got some studs. Of course, number 11, Micah Parsons, leading the way there defensively. And my goodness, there is, I'm just going to play it now because we can get to it, but I'm just going to play it now. So there was this play that I saw of him. I don't even remember who it was against now. He broke up this pass. I think it was Tampa Bay. Play action, he jumps down. Just the kind of athlete that Micah Parsons is this play. I'm like, my good, this dude is just different. If he's in the range of where the ball may end up being, he may make a play on the football. Gets on the edge. He's a tough pass rusher. He has a very high pass rush win rate. But then he also plays a lot of off-ball linebacker. And to be honest with you, I haven't really watched the Cowboys this year. I didn't know how they utilized him. So we're going to talk about that as well. I know I'm kind of going off on its own little thing here. Let's get back on track. Let's start with the participation report from Friday for both of these teams. Talk about who looks like they're going to be in, who looks like they're going to be out for this game. Of course, we get inactives Sunday. I think it's like 45 minutes, like an hour and a half, something like that before the game. So let's start there. Let's dive into it. Now for the Cowboys, I just have Fridays. For the Lions, I have their other two as well. Let's start with the Cowboys. Let's change it up a little bit. Let's start with the Cowboys. Lions coming off a bye week. Let's start there. All right, not really a lot to touch on here. Pretty much everybody's going to play, but we'll go through each one individually. First off, my man, I don't know how to say his last name, Quinton Bohanna. I mean, that makes sense, right? This guy's huge, all right? This is a 360-pound nose tackle for Dallas, and they give you a lot of different front looks. They do some two-gapping, but he plays a lot of zero tech, and I really do feel like after watching a few of their games, this is the type of player that I don't think he graded out well with Pro Football Focus, but this is the type of player that a lot of your run game could be dependent on, especially if you're trying to run between the tackles often in this game. All right, I've seen teams get creative against Dallas, which I think is going to be necessary, especially if they're putting Micah on the line or we're going heavy personnel packages and they're starting to stack the line of scrimmage, some of their bigger bodies out there. I think it's very important, specifically when Micah is on the line of scrimmage, outside, when he's on the edge, is that you mix in some jet sweeps, whether you head it off or just show the look. Just give him a little bit of eye candy to kind of make him have to worry about that, whether or not he actually does or not. That's one thing that I think we should utilize. Tampa Bay did it a couple of times. They had a couple different looks. I think they even threw a reverse in there. We don't have the running type of quarterback here like Philly has, where you can do like the read options. So for us, I think we have to utilize players like St. Brown, who's probably going to be the target for defenses anyway. Utilize a guy like that to just take some attention from that player off the edge. That way he's not blowing up things in the backfield and just playing, pinning his ears back every play he's lined up on the line. But this guy, Quinton Bohanna, he is a kind of a problem on the interior. Like, he's huge. He's tough to move. But I, of course, love our matchup here. Frank Ragnow, who has had a very high run block win rate so far this season. He's a fantastic center, highest paid center. So we expect that you're going to win that battle. It's not going to be just one-on-one all the time. I mean, look, the guy outweighs him by like 60 pounds. But on top of that, different schemes. But with that being said, this is the dude on the interior that can really make a lot of things happen. And what I noticed is that I know they get a lot of press, Micah Parsons, in their pass rush. But this defensive line is legit. And it's not like there's a ton of names on here where I'm like, man, I know that guy. Like, a lot of these names, I may have heard him before, like Osa Odigizua, I think that's how you say his name. He's a nice pass rusher, number 97, sub packages. They like to put him and Mike on the same side. You're like, oh, there's a little bit of heat coming from that. He can win pretty quickly. They have some nice quick twitch, I think, pass rushers in the interior. They have some quick first step guys, but then they also have some, big time run stoppers, whether it's Neville Gallimore, whether it's Quinton Bohanna, whether it's, they kind of go deep. They go deep in their depth chart with defensive linemen. You get a really nice rotation there. Chauncey Golston mixes in, Armstrong who mixes in there, and really all of these guys can make plays. And then, of course, on the other edge, you do get a guy like DeMarcus Lawrence. And DeMarcus Lawrence, he can still play. I don't know if he's like DeMarcus Lawrence of old. I don't really say I can compare it completely, but he can absolutely play. So it's really, though, that interior front, which I didn't know what to expect. Not a lot of huge names there, but they're kind of a problem. And I've seen a lot of teams have success running the football, but not consistently right at them. However, with that being said, that's one of the strongest parts of this team. We've been able to run the ball at a lot of guys, but I think it does start with Quinton, and I think we have the perfect guy to match up. One of the best centers in football, Frank Ragnow. So I am very interested to see how that goes. Looks like he's going to play. We just hit on Neville Gallimore, young player, defense tackle, wrist. He's in for this game. Devin Harper, we know the OK State. OK State, is that how people say it? Oklahoma State? Oak State? OK State, we see you. Okay, just a depth linebacker. CeeDee Lamb. Now, CeeDee Lamb, probably something we're going to hit on more if we do a preview of this for sure. But CeeDee Lamb, what I've noticed, and I know they have Michael Gallup. He hasn't had like crazy numbers. He'll be playing in this game. And they have guys like the Noah Browns. But CeeDee Lamb does, and he seems to be kind of the go-to guy. Like, whether that was week 1 with Dak Prescott or with Cooper Rush, he felt like the go-to guy. Now, sometimes he was one of the only big names out there, but he just kind of felt like that because Michael Gallup missed some time. Like, that's the guy they try to get matchups to. Now, I wouldn't say he was dominant in those. Like, teams definitely covered him up, but if there's a player that you circle offensively where it seems like Dallas wants to get the football, they trust him, they like their matchups pretty much wherever that matchup is, especially if he's 1-on-1, it's CeeDee Lamb. So that's the player that you kind of circle here for me is CeeDee Lamb. Where is he at on the field? Where they like to utilize him a lot is the slot. Whether that's man-to-man against the slot corner, zone coverage. They love him in the slot. What you see against Dallas a lot is you get a lot of teams that will play too high. You'll get some softer coverage in the back end. You'll get cover 4s, cover 2s. You get a lot of stuff like that. Jason Peters. This is an interesting one because Jason Peters, who's played a little bit this year, he's played 39 total snaps on the offensive line. He played week 3 and week 4, I believe those were the 2 weeks, and they started to kind of mix him in. If you guys remember, they signed him. Well, it's been weird. They've had some moving parts there, but just speaking on that position specifically, Connor McGovern has been, and I hope I'm saying his name right, Connor McGovern has been the starting left guard. Then they go out and they sign Jason Peters. Now, Jason Peters, their kind of idea there was like, okay, we're going to mix him in. Lions have done this before, where you're kind of just every other drive almost mixing each guy in, giving them some reps, and eventually the feeling was it's going to be Jason Peters just holding down that position. That's what the feeling was. But then a chest injury, believe it was week 4, knocked him out for multiple weeks, did not play last week. Connor McGovern has basically been the guy that's taken all of the snaps since he's been out with that injury, but now he's full participation and he's back. So the big question for me here is Jason Peters coming back and they're like, look, you're starting now? Or do they try to go back to kind of their, we're going to work you in, maybe he splits reps, or does he not, and they're good with Connor McGovern? I'll say this, I don't think either guard is great. We know Peters was a tackle, a little bit of an older player, but I don't think either is great, but I think there's a difference. Connor McGovern has struggled at guard, and I don't think he's been like completely awful. I mean, this is a big guy that's played both guard and center coming out of college. He's a big dude, but 6'5" is a little tall for a guard, and he does look a little top heavy out there. Some of his movement skills don't look very clean, and I think quick rushers, like an Ali McNeil, I say that sounds weird, quick rushers, but yeah, an Ali McNeil that's lower to the ground and has some quick twitch could absolutely give this guy problems. I really circle that matchup. Flip it on the other side, I circle Connor McGovern against Ali McNeil. Now, he'll get different matchups like bugs, but when those two go at it, past that, whether it's a pass or whether it's a run that direction, who wins that battle? I look at those two together, and I look at Aleem to win that battle more often than not. Now, if it is Jason Peters, I think he looks a little bit more fluid in pass pro, has a lower pad level seemingly, but even him, like when they try to pull him, they like to run, it seems like a lot to the right side. I can't put a number to that, but it seems like it. They like to run behind the Terrence Steeles and the Zach Martins, but when they pull him, he doesn't look, he sometimes look like he couldn't get around, like it looked a little rough, but we'll see. Either way, I don't think it's a great left guard position for them. And I think when you look at this entire offensive line as a whole for Dallas, you take a look at just across, of course, the first guy you have to point to is a rookie Tyler Smith at left tackle, who's done actually pretty well. Left guard, as we just touched on, Tyler b.godl out of Wisconsin. Remember him coming out a few years ago. At right guard, Zach Martin, who I think he dealt with an injury a little bit earlier this season, but he's holding it down. And then at right tackle, the guy I circled is Terrence Steele. Terrence Steele is a guy that I feel like you can beat. I feel like you can win against him. Now, Steele, long arms, okay? He's got tree trunk arms. He's a pretty big guy as well. But I look at Terrence Steele as this is a player that can be beat, right? There's a guy that you're like, okay, you're not going to just dominate this dude because he can play tackle. You see that. But they can help him a little bit by some of their play designs, trying to help him a little bit in pass pro. But if you do get them into obvious pass downs, I circle that player. But regardless, one-on-ones, I circle him. Now, a big part of that is who do they get matched up, right? Because some of those quicker more dippy, type of pass rushers, dippy pass rushers, some of the more bend, lean can give him more problems, I think, unless they protect him. Like if you're in a normal pass set, he can have some issues. They can protect him a little bit. I think Hutch could win some matchups for sure there in this game, but then it'll also be John Kaminsky. And that's one thing with Steele is he's a pretty big guy. They like to run his way. They like to kick outside runs towards his direction. They like him getting to the second level. He can do that. He can kind of wall people off. So he's a big dude. And I think Kaminsky, that'll be an interesting matchup because he'll probably get that. I'm assuming either Kaminsky or Pascal, depending on who's healthy or who they want to roll with there. Probably it'll be Kaminsky if he plays. And they'll have Hutchinson, who we're told today that they're kind of moving around a little bit. They're trying to find ways to make him impactful. So I'm sure he'll get some one-on-ones, probably play more weak side DN because Charles is not playing, as we'll get to. But when they do drop back to pass, he is the guy to circle and say, okay, there's a tackle that I feel like we actually can win some of these matchups. That is the guy. So those two positions I would circle. It's not a great offensive line. It's not. But they've done a pretty good job of protecting it, and it's not completely awful. But I think those two positions that you can attack. Dak Prescott, of course, he's coming back. Now, week 1 was not ideal for Dak. It was not. Okay, he completed like 43.8% of his passes. They lost Tampa Bay. Their offense basically did nothing. Now, there were some good throws in there. There was also some very bad decisions. There were some poor decisions. And what I noticed, at least from just going through that game, I'll have to get more into this for a preview, but with Dak, it seems like he does have a pretty nice sense of where he needs to go based on coverages that you throw at him. So I didn't see him getting confused a ton, but I did see him make some bad decisions, force some passes late developing. Like, okay, that's probably the right place to look, but maybe it's not there, or maybe there's pressure and he's still trying to get it there instead of just saying, all right, that's just not there, let's just throw it away. So that is something that pressure, again, will be key in this game. Obvious pass downs to just make him make a couple decisions potentially that he just probably shouldn't. It's like, okay, live to fight another down. And he will try to put it up there. He's going to give his guys opportunities. So Dalton Schultz, their tight end, he looks like he's in for this game. And Matt, whose last name, well, let's go. Hey, is that right? Well, let's go. I don't know. Well, let's go. I don't know. It's a backup tackle for him. I guess he's out for this game. So onto the Lions side of things. Chris Board, questionable. Last 2 days, he's been limited participation. The first day, he was no participation. Be nice to get Board back. First off, by the way, I love Calvin Shepard, man. He is great with these press conferences. And he talked about this linebacker room, gave them a lot of credit individually. First guy, of course, he gave a lot of credit to is Alex Anzalone. And he said, Alex, basically, Malcolm Rodriguez can play the kind of style that he does because he has like his big bro next to him and Alex Anzalone, who puts us in the right sets defensively, communication, moves the defensive line. Like, he does all of that, and you do see it. Like, you see it every snap, him kind of communicating with Malcolm, like, hey, go here, defensive line, go here. He's doing all the calls and all of those things from that linebacker position. It's allowing Malcolm to be a little bit more free, and he's felt like for a majority of this year, their linebackers has played well. He felt like his group has played well. Specifically, I think he was speaking on the off-ball linebackers, like the Derek Barnes, the Chris Boards, Alex Anzalone, and Malcolm Rodriguez, which I think they've been solid. But like he said also, it hasn't been great. They haven't made enough impact plays. Now, Malcolm's made some big-time impact plays. I don't want to discredit him there. But there also have been lapses as well where we've given up some things. It has not been perfect, no question, but it actually hasn't been like that's. I don't think that's been what's killing us. I haven't felt like that, and he kind of doubled down on his take of that. Chris Board, if he can play this week, I think that would be nice, depending on how the Lions come into this schematically. We touched on that yesterday, but his ability to help pressure and play coverage on third downs is nice, and they got a guy like Dalton Schultz, so I look at him if he can play this week to possibly get some looks here. He spoke on Derek Barnes, who he said we kind of took some off his plate. He's still developing, which, I mean, it has to be right. Like, Derek Barnes is still very young into this. He's still very new to playing off ball, and he feels like I think he said he's kind of like as a 15 snap type of linebacker right now. He's done a good job, but he's still in that progression stage, and you think about it, Malcolm Rodriguez has probably played way more off ball linebacker than this guy has. I mean, he played 4 years at Oklahoma State, so he's much quicker to getting it, but he does have a lot of optimism for Derek Barnes, which is great. DJ Chark, this one hurts big time. We kind of felt it was going to happen, and now it was like, okay, confirmed he's not playing this week, which the bigger concern to me maybe is that I don't know when he's going to come back. I mean, this is an ankle injury that has been pretty much put out there. This is the same one he's dealt with, which was probably my biggest concern about this signing was like, hey, he's dealt with the same ankle injury multiple times, and now here we are again. It's unfortunate. Soon can we get this guy back, because we know Jameson is probably a little ways down the road, and I think we need DJ Chark. Not for every game. I think there's certain games where he's going to be more necessary than others. Of course, he's great in every game because he's just that deep ball threat that has size. And it was nice to see Goff and him work together. I mean, they were great in the training camp, and while they haven't been like dominant necessarily in games, you can feel it when he's out there, and he can absolutely, he's a guy that Goff trusts to put it up to, and he is like the one guy on this roster right now that's to take the top off type of threat that you have, because J-Mo's injured right now, and not having that's huge. So hopefully he comes back soon. I think New England, you felt the impact the most, and Jared Goff hit it, basically singled it out without saying it. Like, yeah, he's a guy that we can say he can win one-on-one regardless of basically any route that he has. And Ben Johnson, the way he put it was kind of like, well, I look at it like a puzzle. You know, we kind of have to put the pieces to the puzzle together to make it work. So I feel like this game may not have the same impact of not having DJ Chark from what I've seen. They don't have bad corners, okay? Of course, they got Trayvon Diggs. They got Brown on the other side. They have Jordan Lewis, who I feel like they're probably going to look to attack like they did Kobe Bryant. Do need a guy long-term wise that they feel can just win one-on-one. I think that will be J-Mo, but for now, it'd be nice to have Chark, but Chark specifically, he was like, hey, you know, we're going to be all right. I think we got St. Brown and we got Hawkinson. So hopefully we can get him back soon. That's all I'm saying. Hopefully we can. And it's terrible that he keeps having to deal with the same thing. Taylor Decker, he was out for a personal reason on Wednesday, but he's good to go. Charles Harris, groin injury. He is out for this game. So again, this comes back to, does John Kaminsky, Josh Paschal start? Well, someone's got to, and I would assume John Kaminsky if he plays. Okay, as you can see on here a little bit further down, wrist injury. They've talked and they spoke about John Kaminsky as if basically he's going to be back. I mean, that's kind of the word out there, is that he's going to be back this week. If that's the case, I would assume they've went to pads this week. They're trying to get that kind of going again, especially for those guys, very beneficial. I would assume that he's going to play and start as more of the strong side defensive end, while allowing Hutch to play a little bit more free, weak side defensive end, trying to get him less tight end matchups. And then they can mix in a guy like Paschal, I think, to give in some breathers there. And then, of course, on pass downs, his ability on sub packages to give interior rush, which we just have not had since that guys went down. And both of those guys can bring it. Now, I would love to see, don't get me wrong, I'd love to see Paschal start. I would love to see that. This dude is he's a problem against the run, but Kaminsky was really good for us too, and I just feel like where Paschal's at, even if he does play, it'll probably be very limited. Maybe we get him out there in some sub packages if we could potentially get them into some pass downs. That's what I would expect, because right now we're just struggling, you know, with pass rushers. But also Kaminsky can rush the edge. He doesn't have a lot of like dip or bend around the edge, but he's got a long arm, which he utilizes, and then it pulls you back to Terrence Steele, where I feel like Terrence Steele is susceptible to getting beat by a long arm move, even though he has long arms. Okay, that sounds weird. And then his bull rush. So he gives you some of that presence as well, and that's what we just need. We just need an upgrade there right now. Continuing down, Iffy, he's out for this game. We know he hasn't started. He didn't really play much last week. Made the tackle, got injured. You hate to see it, but he's out for this game. So again, Kirby, Elliott, I expect those two to start. And Nelson is out. I think he was also out last week. I don't know how long he's been out, but he's out again. Dan Skipper can kind of be that sixth offensive lineman if they like to go that direction. Bobby Price is out. Josh Reynolds, this was probably the biggest one, though, and it made me feel so good today because for the last 2 days he has not practiced. And then today, limited and questionable. Okay, we got a shot. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that it's not that he's limited and out is very intriguing. It's very interesting, because if it was really bad and it was like, well, he gave it a shot, but he couldn't go, they could list him as limited and just say out. But they're saying limited, questionable. Okay, so obviously let's see where he's at tomorrow. But I feel like this is necessary once again. Now, we had him against New England, but you got to have guys that can win on the outside, and we don't have Cephas right now. So when you talk about putting pieces to the puzzle together, you don't have Chark, you don't have Cephas, of course we don't have J-Mo. So when you start to look at these outside guys, you're looking at Khalif Raymond, you're looking at Tom Kennedy getting mixed in. You're looking at St. Brown. And trust me, there is creative ways to make this thing work. You can make it work based on personnel that you have. But having a guy that you feel like can win on the outside, Off's connection with him that can win some one-on-ones, any route, corner routes, his play action usage, just his size. His sheer size is different than anybody else that is really healthy at this point. We need that size. So that is the biggest one to keep an eye on for inactives for me. I touched on Kaminsky. Will Harris, limited participation. He's questionable for this one. If he can play, he could start at outside cornerback. I could see it. It kind of sounds like it's trending that direction. According to Dan Campbell, both Josh Paschal, who is not listed here because, of course, if they are active and are able to play, you'll get that Saturday. Usually get it Saturday. They'll be like, oh, they're active. They're put on the active roster. So they'll have to make some adjustments if they do that. They're not on here because of it. But according to Dan Campbell, they've both been working. He said basically we'll take it day by day. It sounds like there's a legit shot that both of them could be up and active. It's just at what at what length are they playing, right? And I think specifically when you look at corner, that's a big question. And I kind of doubt that even if Jerry is active, I almost feel like Jerry won't be active if he's not ready to potentially start. He's missed a lot of time, right, with his injury going back to last season. Pascal, we've seen him a little bit even before earlier in the offseason. So that one feels unlikely that we see him. But if we do, I would love to see him compete. And you know I'd love to see him start on the outside. If he's healthy, I'd love to see him start on the outside. I just get the feeling that that's not going to be the case. But I think Pascal will play a little bit in this game in some limited reps. Frank Ragnow, full participation. He's in. That's awesome. Again, we just touched on why Quentin Bohanna is a big, large man, and I think their interior is actually pretty nice. I mean, there's a lot of runs. You can see them stuffing it and forcing cutback lanes, and specifically, I think it starts with him at nose, so that's great. Swift, it looks like he's trending towards playing. We'll see at what snap count. Again, they're going to take it day by day here with DeAndre Swift, but I think the biggest impact for him, not only the pass game and matchup-wise, not having some of the guys that we have, and that's huge. Jordan Lewis, if you're circling a guy defensively that I'd say, okay, Lions may look to attack him, from what I've seen so far, I probably have to watch more. Jordan Lewis, the slot cornerback, is the guy that teams seem to kind of tend to go after a little bit. Now, however they do that, there's different ways to go about it, but that seems to be the guy. And running backs, you can get those guys matched up on them at times. Your slot receiver, of course, is St. Brown, so you're automatically going to circle that, because if it's man coverage, then there you go, there's your man matchup. Maybe the Cowboys decide, hey, we're going to utilize some safety help, and then, of course, then you point to everybody else, say, okay, Hockenson, you got to win then. Swift, you got to win then. Josh Reynolds got to win then. But I doubt they do that. I do circle St. Brown because he's probably going to get a lot of the matchups, I would assume, if Josh can play. Now, this could change up if you don't have Josh, but if Josh can play on the outside, it could allow you to potentially use St. Brown or Khalif, whoever you're going to use there, whoever it is, to attack Jordan Lewis in this game. St. Brown looks like he's more so 100%. So I like St. Brown when he's 100%, okay? That's huge than just being out there. And I give a lot of credit to St. Brown for playing through his injuries, and even if that means just being a decoy that you have on the field. Give a lot of credit. I give a lot of credit to him, but we need him at 100% to go win matchups, not just be out there win, because we're going to need you to win this week. And somebody had to win last week, and unfortunately, more often than not, no one won. He won a few times last week, even with the injury. You know, they got Jaron Curse. He'll slide down. He'll take Hawk when they play man. So that'll be a familiar matchup. Of course, I like J-Rod against tight ends. We made a video going way back. I know this is off topic, called the tight end stopper. Oh my goodness, that's a classic. If you know about tight end stopper, you a real one, man. Okay, shout out to you. This is old. When we got J-Ron from Minnesota, the tight end stopper. Hold up. Hopefully he does not stop Hawk this week. I do want to touch a little bit on this Cowboys defense, in particular Micah Parsons, because one thing that I think, again, you talk about all the pass rush, and yeah, what's so crazy about him is he's just a crazy athlete. The defensive line games, or it's just he gets a one-on-one and they give him a two-way go. His acceleration off the line is nasty, and I assume a lot of his matchups will be against Taylor Decker, because that's what teams have usually gotten, is him against your left tackle. They'll move him around, no question, but you get a lot of that. So stunt games, basically what I'm saying is the left side of the line's offensive line is going to be under pressure in this one. Odigizua, Micah Parsons, stunt games, line games that they run on pass down. So the more often you get to those, which is not ideal, you want to stay ahead of schedule in this game, but you're going to have to be creative, I think, a little bit in the run game. It's really the run game where I feel like Micah makes a massive impact from off-ball back. When they run the ball and he's at off-ball, he is so explosive and attacking downhill. He just shoves tight ends. If he's at edge, he'll shove your tight end into the lane. He'll just absolutely just shove offensive linemen back and close up and clog up lanes. And now these big defensive linemen who are kind of holding their ground, two-gapping, can shed and make a play. And they got some guys that can shed. They got good hands in there. And then things are forced to bounce and kick to the outside. I think we can handle a little bit of the pass downs here. But those are the two guys. If you're saying two pass rushers, really their entire D-line gets pressure. They have a lot of guys that can win. But it's Osa and it's Micah, of course. Flip side, again, a lot of teams seem to run a lot of too-high coverage against this offense. A lot of too-high coverage defensively. We'll see how we do it this week. I mean, Aaron Glenn has adjusted his game plan. I talked about it yesterday, how I want to see more post-snap movement, maybe back a little bit more to last year, try to confuse quarterbacks. But I do assume that, Aaron Glenn does come in with each game with different strategies and what kind of coverages we're going to implement. Last week was more man, more Tampa 2, more cover 2 type of looks. And we've had games like Seattle, more cover 3, more cover 6. This week, I expect to see probably more 2 high looks defensively, even though their run game can kind of try to pull you out of that. I do do think this is a game where our defensive line, maybe not to the Washington extent, but I do say that we can win battles here. I do think so. I don't think it's a battle line, but I think we can win battles. I look at Aleem McNeil, circle him, and say he's going to win battles. Kaminsky, to what Shepard said about this. He was like, it's phenomenal to have those two guys back. So it sounds like both are going to play. It is phenomenal to have Pascal and Kaminsky back. He said, I take care of those guys, whatever they need. And he's like, I would have loved to play in front of those guys. And what I love about what Shepard did is like, yeah, the run game numbers. And he said, look, you can't take like one run out because that's the game, right? So like we kind of did yesterday. Yeah, those explosive plays, they happen. But we were trying to figure out how they happen. But with him, he did make good points. Like, look, you look at that Patriots game, like 36-ish runs. I think it was like 36 for Stevenson exactly. And 31 of those we did well. But then you have 4 explosive runs in that Jacksonville number. And that is the case. Have to stop those. And they will pull. They kick outside. A lot of power runs, especially towards the right side of the line. So you want to talk about, you got to be on it. This is the game to do it because they're going to give you a lot of those. And if Dallas has seen any of our film, they're going to be like, all right, we're going to attack that. Cornerbacks need to be disciplined. Got to get outside contained. Cannot get squeezed inside and let them kick around the edge as often. But I do look at match for matchup zone runs. Our defensive linemen, I think, are going to win this battle. I think that's going to happen, and then that can allow you to play a little more of that softer coverage in the back end with the 2 high a little more consistently. I would love to see if we play a lot of man in this one, Mike Hughes on him, but we may get some AJ, and again, I kind of expect Will Harris probably going to start on the outside if he's healthy with Jeff Okudah. That's kind of the feeling I get from this. Unless schematically they are changing up, they're going more zone, then I still expect Will to probably start, but Amani starts to play his name into it. AJ Parker could start, so a lot of different things could play into it this week. But like I said, if Jerry's healthy, I would like to start Jerry at outside corner. Speaking for this Cowboys defense, they have the second highest pass rush win rate at 54%. I think that's because they have a lot of guys that can do it. They also have the second lowest run stop win rate, which is a little shocking to me. I don't know if that number reflects what I've seen exactly, but again, I think it's because of maybe some of the style that they play defensively, and I think that our guards can win a lot of these battles. But that interior defensive line versus our interior offensive line, this battle is going to be awesome. The trenches battle across the board, whether it's pass game, run game, is going to be what to watch for sure in this game. I mean, that's what it's going to be about. Plus, who's kicking for us? I mean, all this talk, bro, who's kicking the football? All right, that's what I'm here for. All this stuff is great, but who's kicking the football? There was an example last week against Patriots. Our rush game, we tried to run like a stunt, and the 2 guys ran into each other and fell down. It was like, okay, this stuff has to be better. Like, what are we doing here? Jason Peters definitely looked much better against that kind of stuff than necessarily what it looked like for Connor McGovern. So that's probably another impact thing as well. Him being so high, he just looks a little bit tougher to move, but Jason Peters did look a little bit more controlled, moving back and forth, and we know he's played a lot of football, so he gets it. With that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you, Pride, for watching, and I'm out.